Ladies and gentlemen, we now move on to the last session of the day, a PALM AES session panel discussion on advanced recording techniques and immersive music production. In this session, leading experts will share their knowledge on the cutting edge of audio tech and next-gen sound workflows. Please welcome our moderator Stan Alvarez along with our panelists Vijay Dayal, Chaitanya Chinchlikar, PA Deepak and Ishan Jagyasi. Stan Alvarez is a techno consultant with 40 years experience in audio, electromechanics, lighting and smart classrooms. As a program coordinator for professional associations, he has organized and hosted a number of national and international technical presentations and training programs for industry and colleges over the last 20 years. Vijay Dayal started entering the audio recording industry in the year 2000. Dayal has an extensive experience of recording and mixing numerous films, working with studios like Studio Plaza, Krishna Audio, Empire Studios, YRF Studios, did live shows mixing with Asha Bhosle, Shreya Ghoshal, Ajay Atul, and Preetam. Chaitanya Chinchlikar has had a 2-decade career in film, media, and entertainment industry. He is currently at Whistling Woods International, India's premier film and creating arts institute, in the capacity of Vice President and Business Head. Over the past 15 years at Whistling Woods, he has worked towards mainstreaming of film education, particularly, and of media and entertainment education generally, in India's high school, graduate, and postgraduate education spectrum. Ishan Jagyasi, also known by his artistic identity Nordest, is a sound engineer, music producer, and spatial audio specialist and creative technologist from Mumbai, India. His expertise in spatial audio is backed by his research in optimizing 7.0.4 multi-channel recordings using 3D mic arrays for reproduction and Dolby Atmos. Thank you, moderator and panelists. Please give a big round of applause.
So good evening, all you audio engineers, experts, and students, and all the members of the audio industry who play various roles in produce, right from mixing, from recording, mixing, and producing, and post-production in the music segment, okay, in the music for music, entertainment, elsewhere. And it's wonderful to see you all here at this session on advanced recording techniques for immersive audio production at PALM Expo 2024. In the first place, I would like to thank PALM for giving us this wonderful opportunity as we continue extending our support to this excellent initiative, which creates interaction between engineers and industry. We have an elite panel of recording and production specialists and an industry expert who will share their knowledge and experience in the nitty-gritty of immersive audio with you in an active and in an interactive manner. We are immersed in audio all around us, the sound. Producing is a different cup of tea. And yes, right now, they will share their views and knowledge with you. And we have broken it up into different blocks. First, basic introduction by Chaitanya. Then we shall go to recording, followed by production and post-production. In between, we'll give you an opportunity to raise your questions and clear your doubts. Okay? So let's roll on. And I threw the ball to Chaitanya to introduce this evening's topic.
Thank you, Stan. And hello, everybody. This is outstanding at 5 p.m. Full Audi. Well done. I don't know it is because Mujib sir was before us or it's because of us, but honestly, I don't care. I'm just happy that everybody's here. So like Stan mentioned, immersive audio, and we're going to talk about more than just music. We're going to talk about sound as a whole. Immersive audio is increasingly becoming mainstream. And when I say mainstream, it means both from the recording, mixing, post-production, distribution side. It is no longer a also, right? Otherwise, people would be like, yeah, I do this, I do Dolby Atmos, and I also do immersive audio. That also is pretty much gone away. Whether you look at at the recording with ambisonics, or whether you look at mixing with both headlock spatial audio or vectorized audio, or binauralization, these are all regular. I mean, once upon a time they were it was like of the future, but it's now very much here. And that's really what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about what does immersive sound mean? What does immersive music mean? How do you record it? How do you mix it? How do you present it? And then a couple of use cases of immersive sound, both in live as well as cinema, as well as other means of recording and distribution, right? So that's what we're going to talk about. Now, to get this going, we're going to start with what is the underlying bedrock foundation of immersive sound. And that is a concept called ambisonics. How many of you have some idea what ambisonics is? Okay, good. Glad. I'm glad. Yeah, it's fine. Okay, before I go ahead, I have to warn you, I'm not an engineer. By education, I'm a chartered accountant, unfortunately. Right? Okay, sorry, everybody does stupid things when they're 21. This was my stupid thing. But anyway, I am the Chief Technology Officer of Whistling Woods, so thoda to tech aata hai. But the whole point is that what I want to talk to you about and how I'm going to talk to you is actually very application-based. So yes, there will be a little bit of tech, but there'll be a lot more of how is this happening? How does this happen, right? So can we switch to the presentation? Oh, lovely. Okay, so immersive sound, right? And as you can see, there is immersive sound from behind me. So what is ambisonics? So first, let's understand. Okay, everybody understands what spatial audio is, right? Everybody understands what spatial audio is, given line arrays, given Dolby Atmos, given surround sound, 7.1, 11.1, all the many point ones. We all understand what spatial audio is. Ambisonics is another way, another workflow, another pipeline of doing spatial audio. It is essentially a multi-channel spatial audio format. I mean, I don't want to read what I've just written, but to try and explain it, honestly, I couldn't find anything other than words. So it creates an immersive, volumetric, three-dimensional sound field. If you want to do that in any space or any volume, or even on headphones, there is a particular workflow, there is a particular process that you need to follow in order to get there, right? And that is ambisonics. So unlike traditional surround sound formats, which only create two-dimensional fields, this is actually three-dimensional field. So it is, in cinema parlance, the sound equivalent of 6 DOF, 6 degrees of freedom. For cinematographers, you'll understand what I mean by that, right? Now, it's similar to, but distinct from other surround sound mechanisms like Dolby and DTS, etc., and it is interoperable. So if you do use the ambisonics platform to do stuff, you can record and mix and finalize for Dolby. Right? So it's not like Apple, that its own world, right? They're happy to integrate with what's going on right now. Okay, this is a little complicated, so just bear with me on it. So essentially, you have first order, second order, third order, many order ambisonics, but primarily first order. So essentially, for those of you who are technically savvy, you'll understand what this means. So it's 4 channels. W, X, Y, Z. So W is it's an omnidirectional polar pattern, standard. Just get the room in, right? Jo aaya wo aaya, mic mein. X is a figure of 8 bidirectional polar pattern, which is pointing forward, right? So it's getting this, but because it's bidirectional polar, it's also getting that. Same thing, pointing left, pointing up. So it's getting left, right, up, down, front, back, and the room. And it's using that to fill in the spaces, to figure out exactly kahan se aa raha hai. Oh, okay. Now, this is first order, but higher order ambisonics will use more channels because you need more channels in order to get higher order ambisonics. And essentially, the raw multi-channels recording, just ignore the last line and I'm trying to sound very cool by putting jargon in there, but it doesn't matter, right? At this point of time, there is something called A format and B format, and you have to record in A format and then bounce to B format before you can mix it. Very soon, this will not happen, because whether you like it or no, mic manufacturers and audio manufacturers will have to instantly convert from A format to B format, which the Zoom already does. Right? So it's the latest mic launch, hence it already does that. Right? So these are what ambisonic mics look like. So, sorry, I need to get up. So this will help you understand where it's doing the recording, and then you have 3 figure of 8s. Okay? So this helps you to understand what it actually looks like. Pointer nahi, but acha disat nahi, na? What it actually looks like. Now, that's the Sennheiser Ambio, that's the Rode something 1, TG1, something like that. And this is the Zoom H3. And so these are all first order. This thing, which is kind of in a beta right now, it's launched but doesn't really have a name. This is a higher order ambisonics. So this has 16 figure of 8 acquisition units, whatever you want to call it, because it's not a mic, something, part of a mic, which gives you higher order ambisonics, right? Now, getting to mixing and playback. Now, what you see this person doing is wearing a headset, and he's mixing in something in a platform called Dear VR. Now, Dear VR is a German company which Sennheiser has acquired. And along with that, they provide something called Spatial Connect, where once you wear it, you are actually inside the sound field. So here, he is mixing from outside the sound field, but you can very much go inside the sound field. You can literally, it's a drag and drop. You can actually take pieces of sound and position them all around you, right? And then you can lock it, or you can keep it floating. So if it's head-locked, then if I turn my head, it still remains there. But if it's not head-locked, then wherever I'm looking, it's kind of following me, right? Now, this is what it looks like from inside the headset. So you've already got your recorded feeds, and then you can also bring in digital instruments. So if I want, say if somebody is looking at a particular point, and I want to trigger a harp playing, or I want to trigger something. See, remember, in VR, in immersive, your visual is not your sutradhar. It's not holding the thread. It's sound that holds the thread in all VR content. Because no matter where you look, you're still hearing sound. But what you're seeing is restricted to where you look. So sound is far more important and far more critical in VR than actually visuals is, even though it appears to be a visual medium. So this gives you a good sense of what the in-headset mixing looks like, right? This is what a final mix will look like, where you've got, I don't know, 12, 13, how many ever they are, right? Of music, this, that, car, whatever it is, right? Dialogue, etc., where you want it to come from. Now this is headlocked. So it will not, so you also use sound as a directing attention tool to make the person look where you want them to look, right? So that if you cut from one scene to another in VR, you don't end up missing what you're supposed to see. And once you've got this, now this is fine. Point is, how are you going to hear it? You mixed it, it's there in this, now what? How are people going to hear it? So you have to take this field, you have to flatten it, and you have to binauralize it. So that 2 years. Headphones, 2 years, right? So this is what binauralization looks like, where you take that whole field, and you do a head-locked, and then you give it a left-right binauralization. So there are multiple tools. This is one where you can do this. This is another one, which is slightly more simple, where you can do ambience, RT60 gain, distance, etc. Even do a room preset based on what you want the room to be, and then you get your left-right out, right? So this is the basics, the underlying foundation of immersive sound, binauralization. A lot of music directors, composers have now started recording as standard binauralization. Like A.R. Rahman records everything in ambisonics to be ready for immersive sound as well as binauralization, as well as playback on a normal thing and Atmos and all those things, right? So this is, I think, it. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, this is later. So this was it. This was just my attempt to give you a primer as to what is the underlying foundation of immersive sound. And back to you.
Thank you, Chaitanya. We have, as we have the other formats also, I would like to Ishan to share something on that.
Yeah, so we just saw ambisonics. Ambisonics is something that you can actually just like process in your computer and then just like listen to on any kind of like streaming platform. You can create a binaural mix and then you can listen to it. But then I think in the past like 2-3 years, Dolby Atmos has become like a big thing now. Like all major streaming platforms are starting to introduce Dolby Atmos. And what generally happens is that in Dolby Atmos, you like first you create a stereo mix and then you stem out your song and then you mix it in Dolby Atmos using this whole software called Dolby Atmos Renderer, right? So everything is happening after the production phase and all the mixing and everything is done, right? So this is I look at it as a problem. What is the problem is that like what happens is like musicians are not involved in this phase where they are actually like, you know, mixing with the mixing engineer or like experiencing the whole thing in Dolby Atmos, right? So what's happening these days is that people are releasing in Dolby Atmos, but it's merely just like a lot of labels these days, they are just like taking a stereo file, then putting this plugin which is called NewGen Upmix, and it just like upmixes the entire thing into 7.1.4 format, and you can just distribute it for like Dolby Atmos. And also like all these streaming platforms are what they are doing is like they are just like telling people that, okay, if you release in Dolby Atmos, you're going to get more royalties, you're going to like get playlist placements and everything. So I feel like the whole immersive experience of this Dolby Atmos thing is kind of reducing, even though people are releasing music in it. So like personally what I thought about is a solution to that is that what if we move on from the stereo channel, like left and right channel, and what if we record in Dolby Atmos, right? We record in real time and also monitor in Dolby Atmos. Like imagine a musician sitting in a studio surrounded by 12 speakers and they are listening to their music like, you know, in a spatial format. That is definitely very exciting, I feel like. So that's where my work came in, where I wanted to research on this thing, where how we can actually in real time record in Dolby Atmos and then also monitor it. The issue with this was that everybody is using Pro Tools to mix, right? And in Pro Tools, you just have, maybe I'm like throwing a lot of like technical terms over here, but in Pro Tools, what happens is you need an audio device that will send out audio, and you can monitor it through the Dolby Atmos renderer. But what's happening is that you don't have an opportunity to record something in and then send it out. So for that, you need like a DAW, where a digital audio workstation, where you can accept audio in through the recording that you're doing through your mics, and then send audio out to Dolby Atmos renderer, so that everything happens in real time. The person is recording and you're hearing it in like an Atmos configuration. So this is possible. Like what I tried to do is that like I tried to set up like I tried to find like an optimizing like setup to record in a 7.1.4 channel, because Dolby Atmos works with beds and objects. So you have a bed. It's a 12 channel bed, 7.1.4. Actually, I have an image to show you. Can we get that image on the screen? So yeah, as you can see, this is the Dolby Atmos setup. You have 3 front channels. You have 2 stereo channels, which are like at the level of your ear. You have 2 rear channels, and then you have 4 top channels, right? So like, what if we take each of the channel and put a mic over there, right? And we record it in that particular like configuration, and then represent it similarly in literally reproduce it in that configuration. So if you can see, this is like the mic setup that I did my research by reading a lot about like 3D mic arrays and everything, and there were like a lot of things that people had recorded. And you can use any kind of configuration, but to optimize for representation in a Dolby Atmos setup, this is what I thought was the best setup, is to like have channels for left, right, stereos, and rear, and then 4 for top, right? So, and all of the channels, as you can see, the top channels are perpendicular to the ear level channels. So similarly, the mics are also perpendicular. The ear level mics are perpendicular to the top channel, right? So this would be the first step to kind of record a spatial, spatial audio for representation in Dolby Atmos. Now, what you need to do is that put all this get your audio interface and then input your mics inside it and then send it to your DAW and send that audio out to the renderer so that you can hear all of this. So I have like a very short demonstration that I did inside my computer. I did not even set up a whole mic thing, nothing, because I want you to understand that this is not just like something that can happen in a studio. You can even do this in your computer. So can we play that video? So I'm using Ableton over here, and I'm using the Dolby Atmos Spanner plugin to assign objects, and I'm sending audio out from this whole thing inside Ableton. Right now, you won't be able to hear it in like spatial, but like you can like hear it going from left to right, right? So it's recording over here. There are objects that are assigned. So every sound is assigned to an object. The object, the 15 number object is spinning. You can see it over here, and you can actually see that it's moving from left to right. So everything is happening in real time, and I can also perform with my instrument in this case. So this is kind of exciting for everybody. Like you can, you don't have to have like just 2 channels now. You have multiple channels, so you can put as many elements as you want. You have no restrictions. You have so much of space to work with. So that's one of the exciting things that I wanted to talk about, that this is possible, and I feel like I think people should explore this thing. Yeah. So
Ishan,
now you can just watch.
I would ask one question on behalf of the audience. Maybe someone would have that question in their minds. You're doing all this exercise through your Dolby renderer. Is there any easier way for the music producers to create some tracks which actually can go into the mix engineer session as the surround or the potential immersive sound or Dolby Atmos tracks? Is there any easier way? Because I'm sure this is a foolproof way to work and get the result out of it. But is there an easier way to where you produce the things without using the Dolby Atmos renderer or any other plugin?
Right.
Can you do something within your music audio workstation, DAW, where you can create a specific set of track which can be delivered as the set of tracks which will specially go into the surrounds? Is there any way?
Right. So if you think about it, like I can use a binaural plugin for that. Like I can just if I want, let's say what I want to do is I want to add all elements that I want to in my music, and I want to just I can imagine that, okay, when I go to the Dolby Atmos mixing phase, I want to put this over here, I want to put that over here. But let's say I do not have that Dolby renderer, I cannot afford it. So what I can do is I can get a binaural plugin, and I can just put those tracks wherever I want, right? So I can just put that binaural plugin there, and I can just imagine my track in binaural. Once I've done that, and I have like a visual map that, okay, this sound is over here, this sound is over here, and then I can just communicate with the mixing engineer that, okay, this is how I want it. Yeah, audio ease, right? Audio ease.
Audio
yeah.
ease.
Yeah.
So in this regard, if anyone has any questions for Ishan or for Chaitanya also for that matter, you can ask those questions so that we can continue on the next topic. Yes, he has some question.
Different file.
It was a mono track. Why I'm using a mono track?
His
is because
question is if you ask your question again to the
So
mic.
in Ableton, what I saw, you were sending a synth signal to the Dolby Atmos panel,
Yes.
and then you were recording it in mono.
Yes.
But if you're recording it in a mono, does not it beat the purpose of recording it essentially? Because after a point of time, you're inserting the panel only. So what's the difference? I'm a little confused in that.
Inserting the panel, what do you mean by that?
I mean, if you're panning it after recording, then what's the novelty in this?
Yeah. So what's happening is it's not stereo. So right now you're hearing it in stereo, but when you actually put your headphones, like if you saw the renderer, the object was going up, down. So I'm recording it, right? So I'm recording it in mono, right? But what I'm doing is I'm spatializing it.
So his embedded file would have that movement when you listen to it on the headphones.
It's a handoff. It's almost like a handoff from one speaker to the other.
Yes.
Okay, so
Even though the recording is individual,
His rendered file would have that movement.
so even though the
embedded into that.
recording is individual, mono, it's almost, think of it like a relay, where the sound is going from one speaker is handing off to the other, right? So you are able to do that because I have that one unique sound from that one unique space, spatial space.
We have one question there. You can give the microphone to him.
Hello, myself Sandeep. So what I have understood it, essentially you record 7 channels of audio or like 7 plus 4, 11, 12 channels of
channels.
audio.
Yeah.
Oh, right? You record 12 channels of audio and you route those 12 channels of audio via the Dolby Atmos
Dolby Atmos
renderer
renderer.
to the 12 speaker, and you monitor that in real time.
Yes, correct.
That is what
Yes.
you're trying to do.
Correct, correct.
Okay.
So if you imagine,
And
like,
then-
you know, like you can have that setup in your studio all the time,
Yeah,
right? Then what you can do, so this setup is just like kind of capturing the atmosphere of the
Exactly.
studio, right? All the reflections and everything.
So what I get is that you can experience that the Atmos rendering that you do after mixing, like you place the objects and pan it around. You can do it in real time while producing or maybe while recording.
Exactly, exactly. So you,
And that is how it will affect the performance also.
yes.
But how will the like if someone is in the live room and he is recording, how will he experience that what you are experiencing in the control room? Like you
Yeah,
have
yeah.
the 7 speakers or you have the 12 speakers.
Also, means it does not make any sense for a musician to get that feed while playing. This process is something which he is creating that audio in binaural, I mean in Dolby Atmos for music format, which will skip this recording stage and directly go into the final stage of mixing. The musician does not need to listen to that movement of this thing.
He doesn't. He
So,
does not. Need.
basically, it's just that while we were discussing that what a music producer should do to enhance this effect, because what is happening is music producers are producing their tracks in stereo, and then the mix engineer is taking that call where it should go, whereas this person can do that job, and ultimately that one processed file without any tweaking from my side as a mix engineer would sit in the mix. So essentially that musician does not need to listen to that track in binaural format.
What if the musician is also a producer and he wants that my flute should...
We are actually coming to that recording stage of it.
We are running short of time.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
And we have a couple of more topics to take, and you could just definitely take it offline with this, the speakers. And yes, some of that will, as he said, will be covered up right now. Okay, and so to move on, we going on to. We've covered the overview of formats, and now we're coming to recording techniques for spatial audio. And for that, I would throw the ball to Vijay to give his experiences and share his knowledge on it.
Thank you. So coming back to that recording thing again we were discussing, we have a fantastic set of engineers sitting here. Deepak is also there, and when, yeah, of course I know, but you know, basically what you explained, that because as you asked, who all know about this format, there are very few people. It was very good for them to understand what this is all about, so that's the base. Now we can definitely explain things and they will understand it better. So coming back to recording, what happens? We came from mono to stereo. It was a big leap. Earlier we used to listen to music in mono. It became stereo. It was a huge difference between mono and stereo. Then we continued consuming stereo for like crazy 30, 40 years. After that we were introduced to a new format named surround sound. Now that came into the theaters, we started consuming our films and all this in Dolby Atmos format. There are many more surround formats, but commonly we talk about Dolby. Then it came into music also. Now we call it Dolby Atmos for music. As Chaitanya said that he is talking about the sound as immersive sound or surround. I will talk more about the music and the recording music for this particular format. So coming back to that, we always used to think that multiple things we record, the track comes from the music producer. We do our best to put the things together to make it sound like one thing. Then we were a little reluctant when it used to go to Dolby Atmos in the theaters. My song is going there. I have taken efforts to put that thing together to make it one thing. It is again splitting into multiple speakers, and then it is getting separated. And that glue of the song that goes away. If you have, you must have seen that shadow art something. So they put multiple things together. They throw light from one side, and on the curtain you see one image. Music mix is exactly like that. Multiple tracks we are putting together, and ultimately one image is getting formed. You are putting those things separate, you will not get that image. It is exactly like that. So it's a very skilled job to create the surround sound for the music, especially for the songs. Basically, when this surround sound thing came, the Dolby did not design, means it definitely it was in US or UK. India is more about Bollywood music. The Dolby format wasn't designed for songs at all. That is our skill set that we kind of converted into that, and we tried our best to keep it intact. Sometimes it is misused, but ultimately we have to do that. Coming back to that, for us to get experience, that 5.1, 7.1 happened, now we are consuming it onto your headphones, on your mobile phones. So this Dolby Atmos for music format is such a beautiful format in which you can go beyond the stereo and actually experience the objects moving around you 360 degree, even at your back. Now the thing is that why we are insisting on that the producer should also do their efforts. Of course, they are ready. They are not been given the opportunity or chance to do that so many times. But if they produce certain things in that fashion, the mix engineer doesn't have to think about it that what would I do with this thing. So he will have his ready stuff onto that. Now I am coming back to what Stan said. He asked me to talk about that how you record your stuff into a format which actually would give a better result in case of the Dolby, even if it is the Dolby Theater mix or the Dolby Atmos for music. Thing is that when we mix a song in Dolby Atmos for music format on Dolby Renderer, you have existing stuff which has come from the mix engineer. If I am a Dolby Atmos mix engineer and he is a stereo mix engineer, he did a stereo mixes. He sent me the premixes, some 40, 50 stereo tracks. Now I am restricted to that. Also, I have that content only which I can put, probably I can see pads, put it into the surround, avoiding any high transient instruments going behind and all that, taking care of that thing. It will definitely give you a very good result, but you will definitely get a fantastic experience of listening if you record your stuff into that fashion. So what I can do is I do a lot of recording. I mean, maybe 15 days of the month I do recording in YRF Studios. So I do heavy percussion sections, I do strings, big choir section, everything we record. So I feel people doing this kind of work should do this, where you can use some format, some microphones, or you can use your existing microphones. Using the different microphone technique, you can create this effect. And you can use those files and send those files as, and those files will sit in the mix the way they are panned. The mix engineer does not need to move the panning. For that matter, I have been doing one fantastic experiment with a microphone by Neumann, KU100. You people must have seen. KU100 is a human head kind of thing, which exactly resembles, the material used is like your skull. There are silicon artificial ear, and there are two microphones. It's a binaural mic, KU100. I place that microphone between the entire string section or the rhythm ensemble, and the effect I get is so fantastic. Even if you use your stereo track, pan it, have your isotope 10 imager, what result you will get, this result will be 10 times better than that. So what you should do is you can use some microphones like that. If you have, you can afford, you can get a KU100. You have a Sennheiser Ambio microphone. You have multiple options where you can use this. And because we have to wind up quickly, I will quickly tell you, even before you ask the questions, how you should place them in the studio is, generally what we do is we do the close miking, avoiding the reflection and all. In this case, exactly you have to do the other way. You have to try and capture the reflections more. If you are using a Neumann KU100, you should keep it behind the musician facing the wall. So imagine you are standing behind a musician and facing the wall, and what you will hear, you will get exactly that signal. And this particular track should be placed in the final mix the way it is. You need not to change the panning. This is how you can use this KU100 or any other microphones. If you have regular microphones, you don't have a binaural microphones, you can use a pair of microphones facing the wall against your string section or your percussions. You can place one big diaphragm microphone about 10 feet away from the rhythm percussion section, very close to ground, I mean 2 inches above the ground. And you capture that signal and you put it into your subs. Fantastic result you're gonna go. And all these elements placed in the mix the way they are, not panning them extensively after the recording, can give you fantastic result in your Dolby Atmos for music, for your films also, and for any other surround format if you are using them. This applies in case of live also. We don't have that much of time where we can talk about the live shows and immersive sound. I would hand over the mic to Deepak. Deepak will give some, Deepak is a Grammy winning engineer and he has fantastic experience of music mixing. He works with A.R. Rahman and so many other producers. He will share some thoughts, and then if we have any time we can take the questions and we will be happy to answer those questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi guys. Sleepy? Okay. So now why do we need immersive sound? First of all, why do we need to do that? A lot of young enthusiastic engineers keep asking me, sir, do we need to concentrate on that while producing the track? So what I do is, like most of the background scores, we used to do lots of immersive and surround, leave the immersive aside, but at least surround. We used to do it in 5.1. So their question was, do we need to worry about that? So when we do background scores, a lot of people produce it in stereo. Then send the stems of some 20 tracks, however 20 or 24 tracks they give it to it. So they are losing a lot of stuff in the low end when you do it on that. So I suggest a music producer to keep a 2.1 at least. So that what happens is the awareness of the low frequency is always there while producing the track. So, and also the lifetime of your stereo left-right will grow at least 2 to 3 years more when you're banging the track so much when the subwoofer will take. So that is 2.1 when you're doing a stereo. The same time, while you're making background scores and all, I would suggest if you don't have a setup of having a Dolby Atmos setup, have a 5.1 at least, so that most of your scores are actually more spread it out. Like say whenever I'm mixing, working with Rahman sir's thing, all of the scores which we send it to the final mixing engineers are all 5.1 or 7.1 stems. It was never a stereo channel stems. It was always, so because we are producing it, we are mixing it all in the surround, so that you are in that format. So while you're, imagine you put a reverb and you put just simple one piano in surround, you don't need so much of tracks also, because it's always already filled up. And instead of using stereo reverbs, you can use the convolution reverbs, which are actually more truer to the nature. So why do we need, see now the thing is, while recording in a recording booth, it's always amazing. The musician feels amazing. But once it's mic'd and it goes to the recording tape, it sucks, basically. Why? It's because you're not tracking the way it is actually what Ishan has told. So that we need to just replicate again with a stereo track, which has been recorded or which has been sent by someone from somewhere, and I have to replicate whatever they would have done it. So I have to, while mixing, every mixing engineer has to think that how would the musician would have played. So for that, you need to listen to it. So much of input has to happen. So much of listening has to happen whenever your traffic jam is there. Keep listening to it instead of just playing a game or some, just swiping the Facebook and also rather keep listening to that. So, and now a lot of Indian streaming platforms are actually playing immersive music. The Dolby Atmos music is coming. Like even Wink Music is playing Dolby Atmos audio formats. So you can actually learn how it is actually playing, how I can pan so many things. And one thing is like in movie, you have to follow some kind of rules where you can't put so many things up and down and here. But in music mixes, there's no rule, nothing. It's up to you, whatever you want to do. You put a reverb on the bass guitar, you put whatever. Okay, no problem. As long as it is not above the limits.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So, you know, what you said, what Vijay said, also Ishan. Now, Hindi film industry, Indian films is unique where we have significant amount of both diegetic and non-diegetic sound. So, while recording, mixing, finishing in surround, I'm not talking about immersive right now, how do you treat diegetic and non-diegetic sound differently? Because, I mean, I don't want to kind of elaborate on that, but you understand, right, what I'm trying to ask. Because it's different, right? In diegetic, you know where it's coming from, but non-diegetic is not. It's coming from everywhere. So now, अच्छा कहाँ डाले? या सब जगह डाले? Overkill तो नहीं हो जाएगा, right? If it's non-diegetic, if it's diegetic sound on top of non-diegetic sound, then how do you treat it, right? So if you can just talk a little bit about that.
So many times while mixing, so now the thing is there are so many different formats. Now the thing is when you're mixing for a stereo and you want to hit your experiment to something which is already releasing. So now the thing is lot of times what I do is the pads are there or some synths are there. They are always kept on the normal stereo spectrum. So I put a very short reverb and I put a binaural for those. So this has been like, I think my first is in 2013, I started this. So I kept on sending it, all the mixes with all those experiments on that. Like say, my fully is on the film called Baby, okay, Hindi film, Akshay Kumar's, there's a song called Beparwa. In that, when you listen to it in the headphones, then you'll see lots of filters are actually going behind and front and everything. So I put a binaural plug-in there and ran through whatever things I can go through. So now the thing is, that was mastered by Rubin Cohen in LA, Larson Mastering. So I sent it to him before sending it to the client. So I told him, like, say, you keep listening to so many things, just listen to this. He said, yeah, it's the bandwidth is very good. So what happens is, I'm using the binaural field and also the stereo field. At the same time, I'm sending it to a regular stereo masters. So that all the reverbs and all are creating more image, because when you're listening to it, you're listening to the front left and right, but not on the top. So where binaural is actually giving your back also, so your at least your half semicircle is filled up. So a lot of pads, synths, reverbs, you can actually use that, because now no one is actually listening to it on a mono signal anymore. Previously, we used to check all the mixes in the Sony Trinitron TV and all. Now even the FM. Yeah. So everywhere, like how CDs are no more, like that mono is no more that way. But keep listening to the mono mixes so that you can find out sometimes if one side is gone, you have to listen to the other side. So you have to focus on the mono also that way.
Yeah, thank you. Deepak? Yes, I have two last questions for two speakers, which I shall give in advance. Okay, and yes, I have a question from for Ishan. Okay, and that's there are streamable spatial audio formats such as Dolby, Atmos, and binaural. What do you think is the main issue with musicians not being interested in making music available in these formats? Is it purely the affordability, or is it because they don't realize the potential of it? What is the solution to attract more musicians to this? And what? And yes, one to Chaitanya, which you can immediately follow up, is what is the future of immersive music production, right? Yeah. Yes.
So yeah, I think mainly what's happening is that musicians are like just involved in the music making and production process, but after that's done, like no one is like going to the studio and seeing like, oh, this is how the mixing engineer is like mixing in surround or like something like that. So what if we that's what I talked about, like what if we get that surround aspect in the production itself, so that when the musician is present in the studio and is making music, like they can experience this thing and like kind of get excited. And this is how I feel like we can move on from stereo to surround sound, like because we were in mono, then we went to stereo, and now we have the potential to hear just surround sound in your earphones. So why not just like just skip the whole stereo thing? That's all. Yeah.
Thanks. So I have two kind of things to talk about when we talk about the future. So one is an experience I just had recently, and it was so bizarre that I need to kind of talk about it. So I don't know how many of you know, but there is something in Las Vegas called the Sphere. It is this 300-foot massive 17,500-seater arena, right? With a 270-degree wraparound screen, etc., etc. And all that is cool, but what I thought was coolest in the sound aspect of it was how they've been able to take spatial audio, vectorize it using something called beamforming, which is it's a company called Holoplot 1. X1 and X2 are the first two speakers which they have, where it actually is able to vectorize and direct audio to be as specific from 200 feet away as to keep a gap of 8 inches between two sound fields from 200 feet away, right? So I managed to get access when they were kind of testing it. So literally, because it's a 17,500 space, people come from all nationalities. Not everybody understands English. So if you want one zone to be listening to English, and another zone to be Spanish, or another zone to be something else, you can do that with no other difference other than, person doesn't need to do anything. So literally you can walk from the English zone into the Spanish zone, and there is an 8-inch, 10-inch gap in between where you hear both. That's it. So it's unbelievable, right? And so can you just swap the presentation? Yeah. So this is essentially what beamforming is. So if you go to Holoplot, the website, they've got a whole detailed 15-minute video explaining how it works. So essentially what they're able to do is they're able to take, so if you look at this as the entire playback field, they're actually able to take this and almost amplify it, but amplify it vectorized, directional. So it's not just wild amplification. It's not one person standing and shouting. It's one person standing and shouting directionally. Think of it as a crowd versus a procession. Right? So crowd is scalar, procession is vector. And with this, what you're able to do is actually you're able to get from the same array or from the same set of speakers to specific zones, which is a multi-zone coverage, or obviously you can get one. Right? And so this is what it looks like. Now this is obviously a digital render. This is about 300 feet. This is 17,500 people sitting. This is a 270-degree wraparound screen. And this is the speaker array. and this is the speaker array, and this is the speaker array. So with this, it's able to cater all the way from here till here and break it up into 16 zones. So if there is just English playing, just English playing. But if there's multilingual, you can actually play it. And I mean, this blew my mind away, and then I kind of went back, and then obviously they're recording everything in ambisonics. But not just that, they're somehow able to manipulate audio into beamforming. I don't know how. And it's not just the highs. They're also able to do that to the lows and the low mids, which is even more, right? So this is the only organization in the world right now that's kind of doing it. So if you do get a chance, please go to the website, check it out. There are lots of demos there. What they've also done is in the lobby, they've put a demo where they have a whole orchestra playing, and you can actually walk across the bank of speakers, and it changes from keyboard to guitar to strings to this and back, right? Now, obviously, this is like Samsung recording, so I don't know how much you'll be able to hear it because the phone records from everywhere. But I'm trying to play it back. Just make sure the audio is high of the playback. Can you start from the beginning? It's starting from the middle. From the video, on the video. Yeah, okay, we'll just play it one more loop. So if you see, there's a bank of speakers, and as I'm walking across, so now it's gone from that to, I don't know what this is. And then I walk back, and you can start to see the sound field come through again. Sorry, they have a detailed 15-minute video that they put up on their site. I can't play that, of course, here because we don't have that kind of time. But for you to help you understand what this is, right? So this is one of the future applications. You will actually be able to do this. Tomorrow, if somebody is performing at 1KD Stadium, you will be able to hear it in different languages, especially now with real-time translations and other things happening, right? So this is one way of using immersive sound. And the last one is spherical harmonics, right? Okay, this is really, really complicated. Even I don't understand it. It is a 3-page equation at this point of time, which essentially talks about sound in fields, in spheres. So right now we just spoke about one sphere of immersive audio, one volumetric sphere. This forecasts that you'll be able to create many spheres. And people will actually be able to walk in from one sphere out of the other. So this is the standard single sphere of audio. Then you have 2, which is side by side. Then you have 2 which are up and down. And then you have 2 which are front and back. And the next one will be 4, right? Depending on how many order, which order ambisonics you're recording and mixing and finalizing it. So you'll actually be able to create 4 spheres of audio within the same listening environment, right? So that is really what spherical harmonics talks about. So that and this is essentially what, I mean, I would say our future, maybe 5 years, I don't know. This is maybe more. This is 10 years at least. Yeah.
Thank you, Chaitanya. Thank you, Ishan. Pooja, do we have time for questions? 5 minutes? Yes. I throw one at the floor. Yes, just a few questions. Whoa. Give the mic, please.
Good afternoon, sir. Sir, right now in the morning session, CJ sir told about conversion from 5.1 to direct 2.0 stereo. So he told about in the perspective of film. how can that help in music? I mean, if we are mixing in 5.1 and then we are directly converting into 2.0, that can that make a difference, or it's like it will won't?
When it comes to the music, what happens in film, you can have some content in the film and which can come to the stereo.
Yes,
But
sir.
in case of music, it is already recorded in stereo,
Stereo.
and then it goes into Dolby Atmos for
Dolby.
music. So you will hardly get any situation where you will have to mix it down to 2.1 from 7.1. But if at all you have to do, the same process has to be followed, and you will get the result. As surrounds, you will have to reduce by 6 dB because they will fold down into your main LNR, and so that they will not make it louder. That's the regular practice you have to follow.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Second question is like,
Anybody has any more questions? Yes, please. One at a time. Yes.
Hi. In one of the Dolby workshops, they said that because Dolby is an encrypted format at Atmos, it would in future help cut the piracy to a big extent. Is Ambi works in the similar format? Sorry, yes. I'm sorry.
Ambisonics, yeah. So it's not owned by anybody. It's a format, right?
It's not patented?
Huh?
It's not patented, the format?
No, so... yeah, of course. So it is its own workflow. There are multiple mics that you can use to record it, right? So there are 4, 5 companies right now. Sennheiser has, Rode has, H3N, various people have their mics. Once it's recorded in A format and bounced to B format or converted to B format, then you can mix it in Pro Tools with an Audio Ease plugin or with any plugin. There are about 10,000 odd plugins, lots of plugins, which you can use with Pro Tools, or you can use specific ambisonic mixing tools. They're easily, very readily available. It's not very expensive, not very complicated. What it really allows you to do, it allows you to almost do GUI, graphic user interface based drag and drop of audio. Not just recorded audio, but also digitally created audio. So instruments and stuff.
So it's more of a workflow thing than the relay format thing, right?
Yeah, it's a workflow. Now, output, for example, depends on where you're playing it back. If you're playing back in headphones, then it's binauralized. If you're playing it back for cinema, then it's Dolby, Atmos, or Dolby. If you're playing it back for home, then it's stereo or whatever, 5.1. So this is up to the point of final mixing. For final out, it is a different workflow, but this can also go towards standard play out subs. Now, at some point, just like you have with the Sphere, where there is vectorized audio, etc., there will be other play out mechanisms in addition to Dolby or DTS or etc., where you will be able to use the full power of ambisonics. But as of now, it doesn't exist, but it will be. But just the fact that it's available to you actually makes it much more robust for you to create outs, and it's future-proofing your content.
So as a producer, while creating ambisonics versus Dolby, what would you recommend as engineers?
You can record in ambisonics, mix in ambisonics, export for Dolby.
Okay, got it that way.
Right? But again, you have to decide why. Right? Everything you shouldn't and don't do in ambisonics. Only do it if the sound field of that scene or that shot or that song or that whatever it is, or it's a VR piece or whatever needs it.
Yeah.
Right? So just like, I mean, if you're shooting like a home video, birthday party video, you don't bring in a 8K camera, etc., phone pe shoot kar lo. So it depends on what you are going to use it for. So if there is something which needs this level of, don't bring a tank to a gunfight. This is a tank, right? And you use it where you need a tank. So that's how I would say.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, we have, Puja, do we have time? No. Yeah, no.
This is the last session, na?
Yes, no, but
to
Puja says.
ठीक है ना?
Okay,
जब
one
तक-
question.
Small
The lady.
question. The immersive audio and the sphere ka audio thing was very interesting. And I was thinking if it's used for multilingual kind of purposes, can it be used for making multiple sweet spots?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Is it possible?
It is.
Because
In fact, it is
sentence-
multiple sweet spots.
Yeah. To create mixes for the same.
Yeah.
same
So if you actually, I mean, I couldn't show you the photo of the seating because it's too big to be captured. But there are actually zones that they've created, right? So both horizontal. It's almost like Manhattan where they've created blocks. And you're
You
sitting
can
in,
create
you're
as
seated
many
in-
zones you want and you can have
Yeah.
it separated.
So because they have the array and because it's beamforming vectorized audio, you can create as many sweet spots. Now within the zone, if you move from one corner to the other corner, no difference. But if you move between zones, 8 inches beach mein problem hai. But theek hai yaar, 8 inches over 200 feet is nothing. Right? But the moment you go there, again the sweet spot, but in another language. So
Yeah.
it's unbelievable.
Yes, thank you. We could have gone on. It's a very immersive topic, as I would figuratively say. But yes, you can, we definitely invite you. We shall carry on this dialogue on the platform of AES India. We look forward. Do meet us at in Hall 1 at J95 tomorrow, or register, or you can get in touch with me. Okay, I'm Stan Alvarez. It's Stan, my email ID, I mean just a short to say stanalvarez@gmail.com, and I'll guide you to AES India. And we'll be having session, and we welcome you to join us in this dialogue on this and other topics which we regular interact on. And yes, as we come to the close of a very interesting session, do you agree with me? Did you enjoy the session? I can't hear it. Yes. And yes, give a louder hand to our speakers, Vijay, Deepak, Chaitanya, and Ishan, who have very graciously come here today and shared with us everything, all the knowledge in this short period of time. And at the outset, I would like to thank Palm for giving us this opportunity. I'd like to thank Smita, and we have Pooja here, and we have Kirtan there, who have given us the support in organizing and this session. And yes, one person who I'd like to really commend is my dear friend Vijay Kurian, who's sitting in the audience here, who has been very instrumental in helping me organize this session and putting the speakers together. Give him a big hand.
Yeah, one more thing. Main thing is he asked me to get some of the mixes and all here to play, the Dolby Atmos or Immersive. But here, of course, we can't even hear ourselves here. So forget Dolby Atmos. So there is a workshop on 2nd in Dolby Labs. Basically, it is by Apogee and Dolby Atmos and Ricky Cage. And a lot of my mixes will be playing. Dune will be playing, all the Dune mixes, and Alan Meyerson's mixes are playing by Alex Sona, who is there. Stand. You can stand. He's an amazing mixing engineer, and he'll be there. He'll be hosting this Dolby Immersive Audio in this thing on 2nd. So it's in Pink Noise. There's a AV. You can go there and check it out, or you have all the invites are there. You can fill up all this thing, and you can join there and experience the actual surround there. Okay. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. I'd like to thank my AES members who have come here today and supported this session, and all of you attendees. I'm really grateful for you to be here. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, respected moderator and esteemed panelists. May I please request you to stay back on the stage for a moment as I present a token of appreciation.